A jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members has collided with an Army helicopter while landing at Ronald Reagan National Airport near Washington, prompting a large search and rescue operation in the nearby Potomac River. According to Associated Press, there were multiple fatalities, according to a person familiar with the matter, but the precise number of victims was unclear. At a news conference early Thursday morning, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser said both aircraft are in the water. The focus now is on rescuing people. There was no immediate word on the cause of the collision late Wednesday. Officials who held a press conference at Reagan National Airport did not announce any deaths, but they all had a somber tone. Senator Roger Marshall of Kansas said, "When one person dies it's a tragedy, but when many people die it's an unbearable sorrow." There are currently about 300 responders working on the rescue operation. Washington Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly said at the early Thursday news conference that conditions are extremely rough for responders, with cold weather and intense wind. All takeoffs and landings from the airport were halted as helicopters from law enforcement agencies across the region flew over the scene in search of survivors.
In 2048, we received an alert from the FAA tower of an aircraft incident involving a commercial aircraft and a helicopter. Our units immediately responded and deployed 3 boats and immediately called for mutual aid resources. Again, as Chief Donnelly said, it's an active operation that's going to last many hours as we continue to work through recovery efforts and rescue operations. This will be ongoing for quite a while.
Yes, both aircraft are in the water. The focus now is rescuing people, and that's what all of our personnel are focused on. And Chief, I think he's given a pretty good description, but if there's anything else you want to add, Chief?
I would just say that the boats are out doing searches. We have divers on both aircraft, and they're searching the aircraft at this point.
The circumstance I would describe is that I know that flight. I've flown it many times myself. I lobbied American Airlines to begin having a direct nonstop flight service to DCA. That flight has been in existence about a year. And it is certainly true that in Kansas and in Wichita in particular, we're going to know people who are on this flight, know their family members, know somebody. So this is a very personal circumstance as well as an official response.
You know, when one person dies, it's a tragedy, but when many people die, it's an unbearable sorrow. It's a heartbreak beyond measure. And I know Senator Moran and I are here just to say we care. We wish that there was more we could do, but unfortunately there doesn't seem much at this time. I want the folks to back home to just know that we care, that we love them, and that this is a time when we'll have to join arms together.
We did have aircraft that were in the air. They were diverted to Dulles Airport, some 19 aircraft. I do want to make an announcement. People are, concerned about what's going to happen in the morning. Reagan National Airport will be closed until 11 o'clock. That's when the first flights will take off.
Vladimir Putin is to blame for the war against Ukraine, and he has no plans to stop it. Even in Russia, they are convinced of this. The corresponding statement was made by a resident of the Bryansk region, whose interception of a telephone conversation was published by the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense. In an audio recording intercepted on the GUR Telegram channel, a resident of Bryansk region succinctly and concisely told his interlocutor everything he thinks about Vladimir Putin. Putin is a bastard. He started it all. Now he continues and continues. He will not stop, the Russian said, adding that the war continues and people are killed for nothing. A resident of Bryansk region made it clear that he lived in Ukraine for a long time before the war. No one started it here. I lived in Lugansk. The Russians started it first. I saw everything, the critic of the Kremlin dictator summed up. Recall societal discontent has risen in Russia since the start of Ukraine's incursion into Kursk Oblast and is being acknowledged in Kremlin public polling. The Kremlin appears to have launched an intricate messaging campaign aimed at justifying to its domestic audience why Russia is prioritizing the maintenance of offensive operations in eastern Ukraine over immediately expelling Ukrainian forces from Kursk Oblast, and limited acknowledgements of discontent may be a part of this campaign. The Putin regime's ideal formula for societal control has three components: exploiting fear of an external threat, maintaining a certain comfort level, thus making it possible to adapt to war conditions without much effort, and scoring new victories as a means of partially neutralizing fear so domestic anxieties do not threaten the regime. The developments in the Kursk region have only partially affected the second component of this formula and jeopardized the third, which contributed to the drop in Putin's rating. For the overwhelming majority of Russians, the first two components, fear of an external threat and the ability to adapt to it, have not fundamentally changed. Nevertheless, to prevent further loss of confidence and the destruction of basic support for the regime, Putin faces a rather difficult task: to demonstrate in the near future new military victories and avoid bringing a larger portion of Russian society into the war. In some ways, the ongoing Russian offensive in the Pokrovsk direction is meant to deliver some political capital to Putin's Kremlin, though Moscow will need more. Now, Russian military and political strategists are searching frantically for ways to solve this problem.
Russian President Vladimir Putin visited a drone factory as well as an AvtoVAZ automobile factory on Tuesday during his Samara region trip. According to Associated Press, Putin said earlier Tuesday that his country was ready for negotiations with representatives of Ukraine but doesn't see any desire on the Ukrainian side to solve legal issues.
Конечно, особое внимание ветеранам. Мы расскажем о программе, которую мы уделяем семьям сотрудников, которые воюют на СВО.
Так точно, Владимир Ильич. И даже для нас, для тех, кто работает на госслужбе, тоже очень хорошо. Поэтому вот это как раз таки та вода, которую я вам докладывал, что и мы на нее переходим, и всем своим коллегам рекомендуем.
Наш губернатор ездит по этой машине. Вот сзади просто на самом деле комфортно. Это следующий этап. Вот здесь вот мы хотим показать вам макеты двух кроссоверов и одного минивэна. Они, да, это я сейчас все чуть подробнее расскажу. Вот это уже творение наших молодых дизайнеров.
Как она называется? Аура, да? Да. Так это, мне очень понравилось. Заднюю передачу включаешь, видимость хорошая, управляемость, здорово. Что-то есть, что вы хотели, имея в виду, что здесь у вас беспилотие развивается активно, здесь центр создан такой очень хороший.